All right, let's go take another look at the quadratic formula. So I wrote it at the top. Remember that it should always equal to 0. So here's our A, B, and C. So A is going to be 7, B is -2, and C is -10. So you will want to plug those into the formula. So x equals negative of a -2 plus and minus, then our big radical, -2 squared, make sure you put it in parentheses so it changes positive, minus 4 times 7 times -10, all over 2 times 7. And then remember, it's just a matter of pushing the buttons into the calculator and making sure that you do the order of operations correctly. So x equals negative and negative is positive. And then do the squaring first. -2 squared is 4. And then with your calculator, you can do this portion right here. So 4 times 7 times 10, and negative is going to make it a positive. It's going to be 280 over 14. And then you want to clean up your radical. So 284 over 14. Then we need to put the 284 into the calculator. And that's going to give you a 16.8522. So we'll just use those first 4 decimals. So we will write it as x equals 2 plus and minus 16.8522 over 14. And now remember, when doing these, you need to write it twice to incorporate the positive and negative of the number. So the first time I do it, I will put 2 with a positive 16.8522 over 14, and then I'll do it with the negative 16.28522 over 14, and then you'll compute that, and I get hang on one second. So 16.8522 plus 2 divided by 14. This one's going to give me 1.3465. And then you want to do 2 minus the 16.8522 divided by 14, which will give you a negative 1.0608. We're rounding to the hundredths place, so that's the second digit. So if we're rounding here, we look to the number to the right. So for this first one, 6 is bigger than 5, which tells us this 4 will round up. So this will be 1.35. And then this other one is 0, so we won't change it. So negative 1.06. And those are your 2 answers. So the other part that is going to be discussed for quadratic formula talks about the discriminant. So let me go ahead and show you. So the discriminant, what is different about the quadratic formula? So the quadratic formula will solve and give you the answer, where the discriminant will just tell you how many answers there are. So remember, solutions is just another word for answer. So it'll tell you how many answers there are. It won't tell you what the answer is, but it'll tell you how many. So we use this formula here, and you'll notice that this is exactly the same as the underneath of your quadratic formula. So b squared minus 4ac, I will put the numbers into the calculator. If I get a number greater than 0, it means there are 2 answers. And what that means for a graph is, if you remember, quadratics are parabolas. 2 solutions means your graph is basically going to open up and it's going to hit 2 times on the x. Okay. If it's equal to 0, it means you have 1 solution, which basically means you have a graph. And again, we'll do opening up that hits the x 1 time. And then if you get a number less than 0 or negative, it means you have no solutions. So it means your graph does not hit the x at all. So this is kind of the same thing. Two solutions, two x-intercepts, one solution, one x-intercept, no solutions, no x-intercepts. So I'm going to do a couple of these so you can see how it looks. The directions will be a little different as well because it will say to find the number of solutions. So you still want to make sure that it equals 0 like it does for quadratic. You still want to label your A, B, and C. So A will be equal to 1, so remember it's the number in front. B is equal to 7, C is equal to 5. And your formula is b squared minus 4ac. So if I plug everything in, this will be a 7 squared minus 4 times 1 times 5. This is a 49, and that's a minus 20. So I'm getting a 29. So this is not how many solutions. This is a number that is greater than 0. So if you go back up to our chart for greater than 0, we're going to write that there's 2 solutions. So this 29 is telling us that there are 2 solutions, which means there are also 2 x-intercepts. So if you had to draw a picture of what this graph is doing, you would basically draw a y and an x, and you would want to make sure that your graph hits twice on the x-axis, so once and twice. So let's do one more just to see the difference. So again, making sure that it equals 0. So here's your A, B, and C. So A is equal to 1, B is equal to 4, C is equal to 10. You're going to plug them into b squared minus 4ac. So you'll do a 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 10. So you'll get 16 minus 40, and that's going to give you a negative 24. Negative 24 is not the number of solutions. You use this answer to come up here. Greater, equal, less than 0 is what negative is. It's no solutions. So since this is less than 0, it's telling us that there will be no solutions, which means there are no x-intercepts. And then lastly, if you were going to have to graph this, it would mean that your graph either opens above, it could also open below, it just can't touch the x. Hope that helps.